In the deep hours before dawn, when the world still rests in darkness and the stars hold watch over the sleeping earth, there exists a place where time moves differently. A place where the rhythm of the day follows a pattern older than memory itself. This is the Monastery of Saint Benedict, nestled in a quiet valley where the ancient stones remember centuries of prayer and the very air seems to hold peace within it. Here, in the profound stillness of the night's final hours, a single bell begins to ring, soft and slow, its tone as pure as water from a mountain spring. The sound moves through the darkness like a gentle hand, reaching into each small cell where the monks sleep on simple wooden beds beneath rough woolen blankets, their dreams already beginning to dissolve like morning mist. Brother Thomas hears the bell as if from a great distance at first, the sound weaving itself into his sleeping thoughts, and then, gradually, drawing him upward toward wakefulness. He opens his eyes to complete darkness, yet there is no disorientation, no jarring awakening. This is how every day begins, has begun for years beyond counting, will begin tomorrow and all the tomorrows after. The bell continues its patient calling, each tone fading into silence before the next arrives, giving space and breath between each sacred sound. Brother Thomas sits up slowly on his narrow bed, his feet finding the cold stone floor, and in that simple gesture, the day begins. In the darkness of his cell, Brother Thomas moves with the quiet certainty of long practice. His hands find his simple robes folded on the wooden stool beside his bed, the rough fabric familiar beneath his fingers. He dresses slowly, methodically, each movement a small prayer in itself. Pulling the heavy wool tunic over his head, tying the cord around his waist, arranging the scapular that marks his dedication to this life of contemplation and work. There is no mirror here, no need for one. Vanity has no place in these stone chambers where only God's gaze matters. He pours water from a clay pitcher into a shallow basin, the sound of it a quiet music in the silence, and washes his face and hands, the cold water bringing clarity and alertness. Outside his small door, he can hear the soft shuffle of other footsteps, his brothers also rising, also preparing, also moving toward the chapel, where they will gather as they have gathered countless times before. Brother Thomas takes his candle and lights it from the small oil lamp that burns perpetually in the corridor, a flame passed from brother to brother, never allowed to extinguish. The candlelight creates a small golden sphere of warmth around him as he steps into the hallway, joining the quiet procession of moving lights. Like earthbound stars making their way through the darkness, no one speaks. The great silence of the night hours still holds them in its gentle grip, and there is no need for words when every soul moves toward the same destination, united in purpose and in peace. Their footsteps whisper against the stone floors, a sound as old as these walls themselves, and Brother Thomas feels himself becoming part of something far larger than his individual life. A river of prayer that has flowed through this place for generations, carrying him along in its ancient current. The chapel receives them in silence, welcoming them into its sacred space as it has welcomed seekers and worshippers for centuries beyond counting. Brother Thomas enters through the heavy wooden door, and immediately he feels the shift. The air here is different, charged somehow with the accumulated prayers of all those who have knelt on these same stones, spoken the same words, sought the same divine presence. The space is lit by dozens of candles, their flames steady and patient, casting dancing shadows across the vaulted ceiling high above. The monks take their places in the choir stalls, facing each other across the central aisle, and Brother Thomas settles onto his wooden seat, worn smooth by generations of contemplatives. He can feel the cold of the stones seeping up through the floor, grounding him, connecting him to the earth even as his spirit prepares to rise in prayer. The chapel is not fully dark now. Through the tall windows that line the eastern wall, he can see the faintest suggestion of change in the quality of the darkness, a subtle softening that speaks of the approaching dawn still hidden below the horizon. But for now, the world remains wrapped in night, and the monastery exists in a timeless space between darkness and light, between sleep and waking, between earth and heaven. The abbot rises, and at his signal, the voices of the monks begin to rise as well. Not loudly, but gently, weaving together in the ancient Latin words of the Matins prayers. Domine, labia mea aperias. Lord, open my lips, and my mouth shall proclaim your praise. The chant fills the chapel like water filling a vessel, surrounding them, supporting them, lifting them. Brother Thomas adds his own voice to the collective song, feeling the words resonate not just in his throat, but in his chest, his bones, his very soul. This is the first office of the day, the morning watch, the offering of the earliest hours back to their Creator. The prayers continue in their ancient rhythm, the monks' voices rising and falling like gentle waves upon a shore. One side of the choir answering the other, back and forth, a sacred conversation that requires no thought, only surrender to the familiar pattern. Brother Thomas feels his mind beginning to quiet, the concerns and thoughts of his individual life falling away like leaves from an autumn tree, leaving only the essential core of his being present in this moment. The words of the Psalms wash over him and through him. Out of the depths I cry to you, O Lord. Lord, hear my voice. These are the same prayers that monks have chanted at this hour for over 1,000 years. The same words that will be chanted tomorrow and next week and next year, an unbroken chain of devotion stretching backward into history and forward into an unknown future. There is profound comfort in this continuity, this sense of being part of something that transcends his small individual existence. As the office progresses, Brother Thomas notices the windows beginning to show more clearly, the darkness outside slowly, almost imperceptibly, transforming. It is not yet light, but it is no longer the complete darkness of midnight. The world is holding its breath, waiting. And then, as the monks move into the final psalms of Matins, it happens. The first true light of dawn touches the highest window on the eastern wall. It is barely a hint at first, just the faintest glow of deep blue illuminating the stained glass. But Brother Thomas watches as it strengthens moment by moment, the colors beginning to emerge from the darkness like flowers opening. Deep blue, pale gold, ruby red, the glass comes alive, transformed by the light beyond it. The monks continue their chanting, unhurried, allowing the prayers to unfold at their own sacred pace. And the light continues its gentle invasion, spreading from window to window, touching the stone walls with the softest possible brushstrokes of illumination. As the office of Matins draws toward its close, the chapel has been transformed by the arriving day. The candles still burn, but their light now mingles with the natural illumination filtering through the stained glass, creating a soft, multi-layered luminescence that seems to exist between the earthly and the divine. Brother Thomas rises with his brothers for the final prayers, his body slightly stiff from the cold and the stillness, but his spirit refreshed, renewed by this offering of the first moments of the day to God. The abbot's voice leads them through the closing blessing, and the word Amen resonates through the chapel like a bell tone, marking the completion of this sacred hour. The monks bow to the altar, then to each other across the choir, acknowledging the shared experience, the communal prayer that has bound them together in this quiet hour. As they file out of the chapel, moving back into the corridors of the monastery, the silence continues, but it has changed. It is no longer the deep silence of night, but the fresh, expectant silence of early morning, full of possibility and peace. Brother Thomas walks slowly, in no hurry, allowing his eyes to adjust to the growing light that now filters through every window, turning the stone walls from gray to gold. The bell has rung, the prayers have been offered, and the day has begun as it always begins here, gently, peacefully, with intention and with grace. He feels the quietness settling into his bones like a blessing, knowing that this is just the first of many rhythms the day will hold, each one an opportunity for mindfulness, for presence, for the simple sacred practice of living with attention and devotion. The monastery is awake now, and yet the peace remains, holding them all in its patient, eternal embrace. As the first prayers of the day settle into the stones like morning dew, the community begins to move toward the rhythms of work that will fill the hours until the next bell calls them back to worship. There is no hurry in this transition, no rush or urgency, only the gentle shift from one form of devotion to another. For in this place, work itself is a kind of prayer. Each task an offering, each moment an opportunity to practice the presence that lies at the heart of their calling. Brother Thomas feels the change in the air as the monks disperse from the chapel, some moving toward the kitchens where bread must be baked and simple meals prepared, others toward the fields where crops grow in neat, tended rows, and still others toward the various workshops and chambers where the work of the monastery continues in its patient, unhurried way. He himself is drawn toward the herb garden this morning, that fragrant corner of the monastery grounds where healing plants grow in careful arrangement, each one known and tended, each one holding properties that can soothe or strengthen, calm or invigorate. The morning light is still gentle, still soft and new, casting everything in that particular golden quality that belongs only to the early hours, when the day is fresh and full of quiet possibility. He walks through the cloister, his footsteps echoing softly on the worn stones, past the fountain that splashes its gentle music into the morning air, past the arched doorways that lead to various parts of the monastery, each one a threshold between one space and another, one moment and the next. The garden awaits him with the patience of growing things, and as he pushes open the wooden gate, carefully oiled so it swings without sound, he enters a world of green and growing silence, where the only sounds are the soft singing of birds in the trees overhead and the whisper of leaves moving in the faint breeze that carries the scent of earth and herb and morning. Brother Thomas moves among the raised beds with the ease of long familiarity, knowing each plant by its shape and scent, by the particular way it grows and the care it requires. The lavender is beginning to show its purple blooms, and he runs his hand gently over the tops of the plants, releasing that distinctive fragrance into the morning air, clean and calming and somehow ancient, as though it carries within it all the centuries of gardens that have come before this one, all the monks who have tended these same herbs, passing their knowledge down through generations like a precious inheritance. He checks the sage next, its soft gray-green leaves velvety to the touch, and then moves to the bed where chamomile grows in delicate profusion, its small white flowers like tiny stars scattered across the green. There is watering to be done, and he fetches the wooden pail from its place by the garden wall, filling it from the stone basin fed by the monastery's well, the water cold and clear, fresh from deep in the earth. The bucket is heavy, but the weight of it is satisfying, grounding, and he carries it carefully to the first bed, lifting the smaller watering vessel and beginning to pour the water in a gentle stream over the roots of the plants, watching as the dry earth darkens and drinks it in, as the leaves seem to lift and brighten with the moisture. The work is simple, repetitive, the kind of task that allows the mind to settle and grow quiet, that creates space for the thoughts to slow and soften, for the worries and concerns of the world beyond these walls to fade into insignificance. Here, there is only this: the water, the earth, the growing things, the patient tending of life in its most fundamental form. A small bird lands on the edge of the garden wall, watching him with bright, curious eyes, and he pauses in his work to observe it. This tiny creature so perfectly itself, so complete in its simple existence. The bird tilts its head, offers a few notes of pure, clear song, and then flutters away, leaving Brother Thomas with a sense of gratitude for the gift of its brief presence, for the reminder that the world is full of such small graces, if only we have eyes to see them. When the watering is finished and the garden has been tended to his satisfaction, Brother Thomas washes his hands in the cool water of the basin, feeling the earth rinse away, watching small particles of soil swirl and settle. He dries his hands on the simple cloth kept for this purpose, and then makes his way back through the quiet monastery grounds toward another destination, another form of work that awaits him. The Scriptorium is housed in one of the oldest parts of the monastery, a chamber with tall windows that face north, allowing clear, steady light to enter without the harsh glare of direct sun that might strain the eyes or fade the precious pigments used in the illumination of manuscripts. As he approaches the heavy wooden door, he can already sense the particular atmosphere that dwells within, a hush deeper than ordinary silence, a quality of concentrated attention that seems to thicken the very air. He enters quietly, though his footsteps are already soft, and closes the door behind him with gentle care. The room is long and relatively narrow, with work tables arranged to catch the best of the light from the windows. Several monks are already seated at their stations, bent over the vellum pages spread before them, each one absorbed in the painstaking work of copying and decorating the sacred texts that preserve the wisdom and stories of their faith. The scriptorium has its own scent, distinctive and oddly comforting. The earthy smell of oak gall ink, the faint animal quality of the vellum made from calfskin, the mineral tang of the pigments ground from stones and earth, and underneath it all, the dry, papery fragrance of completed manuscripts resting on their shelves, waiting to be consulted or sent forth to other monasteries, other communities hungry for the written word. Brother Thomas moves to his assigned place, where his own project awaits him. A psalter he has been copying for several weeks now, the text in his careful hand, already covering several completed pages. The initial letters waiting to be illuminated with gold leaf and colored inks in the intricate patterns that transform words into art, devotion into beauty. He settles onto the wooden stool, feeling his body find its balance, his posture align itself for the work ahead. There is a moment of stillness, of gathering attention, before he picks up his quill, a goose feather, carefully cut and shaped, its tip hardened and split to hold the ink and release it in controlled flow. He dips it into the small horn of ink, taps away the excess with the patience born of long practice, and brings the point to the vellum. The first stroke is always a small act of faith, the commitment of dark ink to pale surface, permanent and irreversible. There is no erasing in this work, no going back, only moving forward with care and attention, with the steadiness that comes from breathing slowly, from keeping the hand relaxed and responsive, from trusting the hours of practice that have trained the muscles to remember the shapes of letters, the flow of words. The scratch of the quill against vellum is a sound so familiar it has become almost a part of the silence, a texture within the quiet rather than a disturbance of it. Around him, he can hear the same sound multiplied, the other monks engaged in their own copying, their own careful formation of letters and words, and there is something deeply companionable about this shared work, carried out in silence. Each man absorbed in his own task, yet all of them part of a single greater purpose. The light from the windows shifts almost imperceptibly as the morning progresses, moving across the tables in its slow arc, and Brother Thomas pauses occasionally to rest his hand, to flex his fingers, to look up and let his eyes focus on something distant through the window. The sky, a tree, the angle of a roof, before returning to the close work of the page. Time takes on a different quality here in the scriptorium, becoming both more present and less important, each moment fully inhabited, yet the hours passing without the weight of their accumulation, as though the work exists somehow outside the normal flow of time, in a space where past and future meet in the eternal now of careful, devoted attention. As the morning deepens toward midday, Brother Thomas completes another page, setting it carefully aside to dry, while he prepares to begin the illumination work on a section finished earlier in the week. This is work of a different kind, requiring different tools and a different quality of attention, more visual, more concerned with color and pattern, and the balance of elements on the page. He selects his brushes, so fine that some are made of just a few hairs bound together, and begins to mix his pigments on the small stone palette, adding drops of binding medium to the powdered colors, working each one until it reaches the proper consistency. The colors are rich and jewel-like, a deep blue made from lapis lazuli, ground so fine it seems to glow with inner light, a brilliant red from cinnabar, a warm yellow from orpiment, and most precious of all, the gold leaf that will catch and reflect the light, making the page seem to shine with its own radiance. He has sketched the design lightly in pale ink, an elaborate initial letter that will begin a psalm, its form intertwined with vines and flowers, and, tucked among the foliage, a small bird not unlike the one he saw in the garden earlier. With the smallest brush, he begins to apply the color, working with tiny strokes, building up the pigment slowly, allowing each layer to settle before adding the next. The work is absorbing, pulling his attention down into the minute space of a few square inches, where everything else falls away and there is only this, the brush, the color, the vellum, the slow emergence of beauty from careful attention and patient skill. Around him, the scriptorium continues its quiet work. The scratch of quills, the occasional soft sound of a page being turned, a breath released, a moment of stillness. The light continues its journey across the room, and Brother Thomas continues his own journey across the surface of the page. Each small decision, each careful stroke, another step in the long, patient work of making something beautiful, something lasting, something that honors the sacred words it adorns. In this moment, in this work, he is exactly where he needs to be, doing exactly what he is meant to do. And there is a deep peace in that knowledge, a settling of the soul into its proper place. The gentle tolling of the monastery bell floats through the stone corridors. It sounds softer now than at dawn, mellowed by the warmth of midday. Brother Thomas carefully sets down his quill, watching for just a moment as the ink settles into the vellum, the illuminated letter complete for now, a small masterpiece of devotion and patience. Around him, the other monks in the scriptorium are doing the same, each one finishing his thought, completing his stroke, offering this work up as the bell continues its measured call. There is no hurry here, even as they prepare to leave their labors. Each movement is deliberate, mindful, a continuation of the prayer that has filled the morning hours. Brother Thomas rinses his quill in the water jar, the liquid turning faintly blue with dissolved pigment, and sets his tools aside with the same care he used in taking them up. He rises slowly from his bench, feeling the stiffness in his shoulders from the hours of concentrated work, and he stretches gently, gratefully, aware of his body in this moment, this transition from one sacred practice to another. The scriptorium empties quietly, each monk moving like a shadow, their soft footsteps whispering against the stone floor as they make their way toward the chapel. The midday light is different from the dawn, fuller, warmer, less tentative. It pours through the high windows in substantial beams, illuminating dust motes that drift and turn in lazy spirals, each one catching the light for just a moment before fading back into shadow. Brother Thomas joins the procession, his hands folded inside his sleeves, his breathing slow and even. The hallway is cool despite the warmth outside these thick walls, and he can feel the ancient peace of this place settling around him like a familiar cloak. They have done this walk countless times, he and his brothers, moving from work to prayer to work again. The rhythm of their days as steady as breathing, as reliable as sunrise. As he enters the chapel, the light is different here too. Filtered through stained glass, it paints the stone floor in pools of amber and ruby, sapphire and emerald. The monks take their places in the choir stalls, the worn wood smoothed beneath Brother Thomas's hands as he settles into position. There is a moment of stillness, of collective breath before the prayer begins. The office of Sext is brief, but it holds within it the fullness of devotion. The voices of the monks rise together, not in grand harmony, but in humble unison, speaking the psalms that have been spoken in this place for generations beyond counting. Brother Thomas lets the words move through him, not thinking about their meaning so much as becoming their meaning, letting the prayer shape him rather than trying to shape the prayer. None. Sext. None. These midday prayers are pivot points, moments to reorient the soul toward its true north. Outside these walls, the world rushes on, but here, time moves differently. Here, there is only this moment, this breath, this word. The light through the stained glass shifts almost imperceptibly as clouds move across the sun, and the colors on the floor deepen and fade, like the breath of the building itself. When the prayers conclude, there is again that moment of silence, deeper somehow than mere absence of sound. It is a presence, this silence, something substantial and nourishing. Brother Thomas rises with his brothers, and together they move toward the refectory, toward the simple meal that will sustain them through the afternoon's labors. The refectory is a long, vaulted room, its ceiling arching overhead like hands folded in prayer. Light enters through tall, narrow windows, each beam carrying with it the warmth of the world outside. Though inside this space, there is a different kind of warmth, the warmth of community, of shared purpose, of silence, held together by many hearts. The monks enter in order, each one moving to his place at the long wooden tables that run the length of the room. These tables have been worn smooth by centuries of use, the wood polished by countless hands, countless simple meals taken in this sacred quiet. Brother Thomas takes his place on the bench, the wood cool beneath him, and he folds his hands, waiting. All around him, his brothers are doing the same, each one settling into stillness, into the posture of grateful reception. At the head of the room, near a small lectern, one of the younger monks prepares to read. His face is peaceful, focused as he opens the heavy volume before him. This is the rhythm of the midday meal, silence and listening, sustenance for body and soul offered together. The food arrives from the kitchen, brought by the monks whose turn it is to serve. They move with quiet efficiency, placing simple wooden bowls before each brother, filling cups with water from clay pitchers that bead with coolness. The meal is plain, a thick pottage of vegetables and barley, bread that is hearty and dark, perhaps a small piece of cheese. There is no abundance here, but there is sufficiency, and in that sufficiency, there is grace. Brother Thomas looks down at his bowl, at the steam rising gently from the warm food, and he offers a silent prayer of gratitude, not just for the meal itself, but for the hands that prepared it, the earth that yielded it, the rain and sun that nurtured it from seed to harvest. Everything is connected here. Everything is part of the great web of creation. And even this simple bowl of pottage is a miracle when truly seen. The monk at the lectern begins to read, his voice clear and measured, filling the space without disturbing the silence that underlies it. He reads from the Gospels, the familiar words washing over the assembly like water, like light. Brother Thomas eats slowly, mindfully, each bite a small meditation, each movement deliberate. He tastes the earthiness of the barley, the sweetness of the carrots, the nourishment they offer. He drinks the cool water, feeling it move down his throat, bringing refreshment, bringing life. All the while, the reading continues, the ancient words speaking of love, of service, of the kingdom that is both here and not yet, both present and promised. There is something deeply restful in this practice of eating in silence while listening. It removes the need for conversation, for the small social performances that usually accompany meals. Here, each monk can simply be present with his food, his thoughts, his prayers, and with the words that float above them all like a benediction. Brother Thomas finds his mind wandering occasionally, to the manuscript he left unfinished in the Scriptorium, to the herbs in the garden that might need watering later, to nothing in particular, just the pleasant drift of a mind at rest. When his attention wanders, he gently brings it back, not with harshness, but with patience, the same patience he has learned to apply to everything in this life. The meal is neither hurried nor prolonged. It takes exactly as long as it takes, and when the food is finished, the monks sit quietly until the reading reaches a natural pause. Then, in silence, they rise, each one gathering his bowl and cup, each one moving toward the washing station, where the vessels will be cleaned and prepared for the next meal. Brother Thomas pours water over his bowl, watching the remnants of the pottage swirl and dissolve, and he wipes the wood clean with a cloth, leaving it ready for the next brother, the next meal, the next small act of care. After the meal, after the quiet work of cleaning and the gentle dispersal from the refectory, Brother Thomas feels drawn toward the cloister, that square of covered walkway that surrounds the open courtyard at the heart of the monastery. This is a place he loves at all hours, but there is something particularly peaceful about it at midday, when the sun is high and the shadows are short, and the world seems to pause in the fullness of light. He steps through the doorway and into the covered walkway, feeling immediately the change in temperature. It is cooler here, sheltered from the direct sun, yet the warmth still reaches him, softened and gentled by the architecture. The cloister is built of the same honey-colored stone as the rest of the monastery, and the light loves this stone, bringing out its warmth, its subtle variations in color and texture. The walkway is lined with arches, one after another, repeating in perfect rhythm all the way around the square. These arches frame the view of the courtyard garden like a series of paintings, each one slightly different as Brother Thomas walks slowly along, each one offering a new perspective on the space within. He has walked this path thousands of times, and yet it never grows old, never loses its capacity to quiet his mind and settle his spirit. There is something about repetition, about rhythm, about the way the arches echo one another that speaks to something deep within him, something that responds to pattern and order and beauty. In the center of the courtyard, there is a fountain, and from it comes the gentle, constant sound of water. It is not a grand fountain, not elaborate or ornate, but simple, a stone basin, a single stream rising and falling, the water catching the light as it moves, sending ripples outward in concentric circles. Brother Thomas pauses to watch it, leaning against one of the pillars, feeling the coolness of the stone against his shoulder. The water's movement is hypnotic, endless, the same and yet always different. Each drop that rises and falls is unique, and yet part of the eternal cycle of rise and fall, of giving and receiving. He thinks about how water is used in so many of the monastery's daily rhythms, in the washing before prayers, in the cleaning of dishes, in the watering of the garden, in the drinking that sustains life. Water is both ordinary and sacred, both practical and symbolic, and watching it now, he feels a sense of connection to all the other moments when water has been present, all the other times when he has paused to notice its grace. The sound of the fountain creates a kind of auditory backdrop for the cloister, a gentle white noise that somehow enhances rather than disturbs the silence. It is a living sound, a natural sound, and it blends with the occasional birdsong from the garden, with the whisper of a breeze moving through the herbs and flowers planted in careful beds around the courtyard. Brother Thomas begins to walk again, slowly, placing each foot with intention, feeling the smooth stone beneath his sandals. The walkway is worn in places, especially near the doorways where generations of monks have passed, the stone polished by the passage of so many feet, so many journeys around and around this sacred square. He lets his hand trail along the wall as he walks, feeling the texture of the stone, cool and solid and real. There is something grounding about this simple touch, this physical connection to the building that houses his life. These walls have stood for centuries. They will stand for centuries more, God willing. He is just one small life passing through, one breath in the great breathing of this place. And there is comfort in that smallness, in being part of something so much larger than himself. The sunlight in the courtyard is brilliant now, almost white in its intensity, and the plants seem to glow with it, their green leaves luminous, their flowers, lavender and roses and simple daisies, bright spots of color against the stone and the green. As Brother Thomas continues his slow circuit of the cloister, he becomes aware of the play of light and shadow that defines this space at this hour. The sun, now at its zenith, pours down into the open courtyard, but the covered walkway where he moves remains in cool shadow, creating a boundary between light and dark, between warmth and coolness, between the bright world and the contemplative space. He notices how the arches create their own patterns of shadow on the stone floor, repeated curves that stretch and change slightly as he moves, as the angle shifts. These shadows are as much a part of the cloister's beauty as the stone itself, as essential to its character as the arches that cast them. Light and shadow, he thinks, always together, always defining each other. You cannot have one without the other, cannot appreciate the light without the shadow, cannot rest in the shadow without knowing the light. This is the nature of the world, of life itself. Not one thing or the other, but both together, held in balance, each giving meaning to its opposite. He pauses again, this time in front of one of the arches, and simply looks out at the garden, at the fountain, at the sky beyond. There are no clouds now. The sky is a deep, clear blue, the color of lapis lazuli, of Mary's robe in the illuminated manuscripts, of infinite depth and peace. A few swallows are wheeling overhead, their flight swift and joyful, and he watches them for a moment, marveling at their grace, their freedom, the way they move through the air as if it were their natural element, which of course it is. Everything in its element, he thinks. The swallows in the air, the fish in the stream beyond the monastery walls, the monks in prayer, the stone in stillness. All of creation has its place, its proper mode of being, and there is harmony when each thing inhabits its place fully, without striving to be something else. Here in the cloister, in this in-between space that is neither fully inside nor outside, neither entirely private nor completely public, Brother Thomas feels himself settling even more deeply into the present moment. The meal has nourished his body, the prayers have oriented his soul, and now, this walking, this simple, aimless wandering around the familiar square, is allowing something else to happen, a kind of integration, a bringing together of all the parts of himself into a unified whole. He is not thinking about what comes next, not planning or worrying or anticipating. He is simply here, simply walking, simply being. The fountain continues its gentle song, the water rising and falling, as constant as a heartbeat. Brother Thomas finds himself synchronizing his breathing with the rhythm of his steps, breathing in for 3 steps, breathing out for 3 steps. Not because anyone has told him to, but because it feels natural. Because his body and the space and the rhythm of the place all seem to be moving together. In through the nose, cool air filling his lungs. Out through the mouth, warm air released. In and out, step by step, arch by arch, shadow and light, light and shadow. Time does strange things in the cloister. It stretches and softens, becomes less linear, more circular. Walking around the square, he is always returning to where he began, and yet never in quite the same way, never with quite the same thoughts or feelings. Each circuit is a new journey, even as it traces the same path as all the circuits before. This paradox, sameness and newness, repetition and freshness, is at the heart of monastic life, at the heart of the liturgical rhythm that shapes their days. The same prayers, day after day, year after year, and yet always new, always capable of revealing something previously hidden, always alive with possibility. Brother Thomas completes one full circuit and begins another, not consciously deciding to do so, simply continuing because there is no reason to stop, because the walking itself is the point, not the destination. His mind is quiet now, not empty exactly, but spacious, uncluttered, like a room that has been cleaned and aired, with windows open to let in light and breeze. The afternoon is beginning to establish itself now, though the transition from midday is subtle, almost imperceptible. The light in the courtyard is perhaps a shade less white, a touch more golden, as if the sun has softened its intensity just slightly, as if even the light itself is settling into the rhythm of the day. Brother Thomas finds a place to sit on one of the stone benches that line the cloister walkway, positioned so that he can look out through the arches at the garden, at the fountain, at the small portion of sky that is visible from this angle. The stone is warm beneath him, having absorbed the sun's heat throughout the morning, and it radiates that warmth gently, a gift given back to the world. He sits with his hands resting in his lap, his back straight but not rigid, his body held in that posture of attentive relaxation that he has learned over years of practice. This is the gift of places like this, he reflects. They teach you, slowly, patiently, how to be still, how to sit in silence without discomfort, how to be present without always needing to do or produce or achieve. The world beyond these walls is so often frantic, driven, always moving toward the next thing, never quite satisfied with what is. But here, in the monastery, in this cloister, there is a different possibility, the possibility of being content with the present moment, of finding in it all that is needed, all that is truly necessary. The fountain's music continues, that soft, liquid sound that has become so woven into the fabric of this moment that Brother Thomas hardly hears it consciously anymore. It is simply there, like his breathing, like his heartbeat, part of the fundamental texture of being here. A bee drifts past, moving from flower to flower in the garden, intent on its work, and he watches it with gentle attention, admiring its focus, its purposefulness, its participation in the great cycle of pollination and growth and life. Everything has its role, its part to play, and the bee performs its work with a kind of perfection that requires no thought, no doubt, no hesitation. Would that we could be so unself-conscious in our service, he thinks, so fully ourselves, so completely given over to the task at hand. The shadows in the cloister are shifting now, lengthening ever so slightly as the sun begins its slow arc toward afternoon. Brother Thomas notices this without analyzing it, simply registering the change the way one registers a change in the wind or the temperature. He knows that soon, in an hour or perhaps 2, there will be more work to do. The garden will need tending, or there may be tasks in the kitchen, or the scriptorium will call him back to the manuscript that awaits completion. But for now, there is this, just this, the sitting, the looking, the being. The stillness of the cloister wraps around him like a cloak, and he accepts it gratefully, lets it settle over his shoulders, his heart, his mind. This is prayer too, he knows, even without words, even without the formal structure of the offices. This attentive presence, this openness to the moment, this willingness to be exactly where he is without wishing to be elsewhere. This is communion. This is offering. This is the soul's deepest yes to the world as it is, to life as it unfolds, to God as God is present in all things. The cloister holds him gently, as it has held so many others over so many years, and he is one with all of them in this moment. All the monks who have walked these stones, sat on these benches, looked out through these arches at the changing light, the turning seasons, the eternal fountain. He is held within a continuity that stretches far beyond his own small life, and there is profound peace in that, profound rest. In the sacred space of the cloister, time has indeed slowed and softened, becoming something more like eternity than the relentless march of hours. And Brother Thomas sits in that eternal now, breathing slowly, his heart quiet, his spirit at rest, held in the gentle embrace of stone and light, water and silence, knowing that all is well, all is as it should be, and there is nowhere else he needs to be but here. The cloister fades behind him now, the sound of the fountain growing softer with each slow step, until it becomes merely a whisper, a memory of water touching stone. Brother Thomas moves through a narrow corridor, his sandals barely making a sound on the worn flagstones that have felt the passage of countless feet across countless years. The walls here are thick, embracing him in their ancient strength, and the air is cool and still, scented faintly with old wood and beeswax, and the indefinable sweetness of time itself. He is walking toward the library, that sacred repository of wisdom, where words written by hands long turned to dust still speak in silent eloquence. There is no hurry in his movement, no destination that cannot wait, only this eternal present moment, this single breath, this one gentle footfall after another. A slant of afternoon light finds him through a high window, touching his shoulder like a blessing, filling the stone corridor with amber warmth that seems to slow time itself, to make the very air thick with peace. He pauses for just a moment, standing in that column of golden light, feeling its warmth on his face, and he closes his eyes and breathes, simply breathes, and the world is perfect and complete. Then he continues, the light releasing him, the shadows welcoming him back into their cool embrace, and soon he reaches the heavy wooden door of the library, its surface dark with age, smooth from the touch of countless hands. He lifts the iron latch. It moves with a satisfying weight, solid and real, and the door swings open on silent hinges, revealing the hushed sanctuary beyond. The library receives him like an old friend, wrapping him in its particular stillness, a silence that is not empty but full, dense with the presence of 10,000 thoughts, dreams, prayers, and insights preserved in ink and vellum. The light here is gentle and diffused, filtering through small windows set high in the walls, illuminating the dust motes that drift lazily through the air like tiny spirits, never hurrying, never falling, simply floating in their own timeless dance. Brother Thomas steps inside and gently closes the door behind him, and the world outside ceases to exist. The library is not large, but it contains multitudes. Shelves line the walls from floor to ceiling, each one bearing the weight of centuries. Manuscripts bound in leather, scrolls tied with faded ribbon, codices thick with illuminated pages. Some of these books were copied here in the Scriptorium where Brother Thomas worked this very morning. Others came from distant lands, carried by traveling monks, gifts from other houses, treasures rescued from forgotten places. Each one is precious beyond measure, each one a fragment of humanity's long conversation with the divine, with truth, with beauty. Brother Thomas moves slowly between the shelves, trailing his fingers lightly along the spines, feeling the texture of leather and wood and cloth, reading the titles embossed in fading gold. He is not looking for anything in particular, merely communing with this gathered wisdom, honoring the labor of all those scribes and scholars who gave their eyes, their hands, their lives to preserving these words. Finally, he selects a volume, a collection of meditations by a hermit saint who lived 300 years ago in the desert, and carries it to one of the reading desks positioned beneath a window. The desk is simple, made of dark oak, its surface worn smooth by countless readers before him. A small cushion rests on the bench, and he settles onto it with a quiet sigh, placing the book carefully before him. For a long moment, he simply sits, his hands resting flat on either side of the manuscript, his breathing slow and deep, preparing himself to receive whatever wisdom the text might offer. The afternoon light falls across the pages, and he opens the book with reverence, the vellum crackling softly, releasing a scent of age and care. The script is beautiful, written in a steady hand, the letters formed with devotion, each one a prayer in itself. Brother Thomas begins to read, his eyes moving slowly across the lines, his lips forming the words silently, letting their meaning sink deep into his heart. The saint writes of silence, of solitude, of the vast peace to be found in surrendering all desires, all fears, all the endless chatter of the mind. He writes of the desert, where nothing grows but truth, where the soul is stripped bare and finds itself face to face with the infinite. Brother Thomas reads, and the words become his own experience, and he is both here in this library and there in that ancient desert, both Brother Thomas and that long-dead hermit, both separate and one, held in the eternal now where all seekers meet. Time passes, though Brother Thomas has no awareness of its passage. There are no clocks here, no urgency, only the slow turning of pages, the gradual shifting of light across the desk as the sun moves through the afternoon sky. He reads of emptiness that is fullness, of poverty that is richest treasure, of the paradox at the heart of all spiritual seeking, that we must lose ourselves to find ourselves, must die to truly live, must surrender everything to gain everything. The words wash over him and through him, not as intellectual concepts, but as living truth, soaking into his being the way rain soaks into thirsty earth. His breathing slows further, matching the rhythm of the phrases, and sometimes he pauses, eyes unfocused, simply sitting with a particular insight, letting it blossom in the silence of his heart. The library holds him gently in its quiet embrace, asking nothing, offering everything. Occasionally, he hears small sounds, the creak of old wood settling, the distant call of a bird beyond the walls, the whisper of his own breath. But these sounds do not disturb the silence. Rather, they deepen it, the way a single stone dropped into still water creates ripples that somehow make the water's stillness more apparent. After a time, perhaps an hour, perhaps two, it doesn't matter, Brother Thomas gently closes the book, his hands lingering on its cover with gratitude. He has read perhaps 10 pages, perhaps fewer, but he is filled, nourished, satisfied in a way that has nothing to do with quantity and everything to do with quality, with depth, with truth absorbed at the pace of the soul. He sits for a few moments more, honoring the transition, allowing the words to settle fully into his consciousness. Then, with the same slow reverence with which he took the book down, he returns it to its place on the shelf, sliding it carefully into the gap where it belongs, where it has belonged for decades, where it will belong long after he is gone. The library will remain, he thinks, and the thought is comforting, this continuity, this sense that some things endure beyond the brief flicker of a single life. He stands in the center of the room for a moment, surrounded by all this accumulated wisdom, all these voices speaking across the centuries, and he feels himself part of something vast and timeless, a single thread in a tapestry whose pattern he cannot see, but trusts is beautiful beyond imagining. Brother Thomas leaves the library as quietly as he entered, closing the door with gentle care, and finds himself once more in the cool stone corridor. But now, instead of returning toward the cloister, he turns in the opposite direction, toward a smaller door that leads to the gardens. His body knows the way without thought, feet carrying him along the familiar path, through the door and down 3 worn steps, and suddenly he is outside again, emerging into the afternoon air, and it feels like a blessing on his skin, fresh and alive, carrying the scent of growing things. The herb garden where he worked this morning is before him, but it looks different now in the changed light, the sun lower in the western sky, the shadows longer, everything touched with the golden softness of late afternoon. The world has that particular quality it gets in these hours, a kind of gentle melancholy, beautiful and bittersweet, the day beginning its slow descent toward evening, toward rest, toward the tender darkness that waits patiently for all things. Brother Thomas steps onto the narrow path between the raised beds, feeling the earth solid beneath his feet, and he breathes deeply, drawing the garden into his lungs, the sharp sweetness of sage, the soothing perfume of lavender, the green living smell of leaves and soil and growth. This is his other sanctuary, as sacred to him as the chapel or library, this place where he works with his hands, where prayer becomes embodied in simple action, where the boundary between the sacred and the mundane dissolves completely. He kneels slowly beside a bed of herbs, feeling his knees settle into the soft earth, and reaches for a small basket and hand fork that wait there from earlier, tools worn smooth by years of use. There are weeds to be pulled, always weeds, and he begins the work with quiet attention, fingers finding the base of each unwanted plant, grasping it firmly but without aggression, pulling steadily until the roots release their hold on the soil. One weed, then another, each one placed in the basket with care, each action complete in itself, requiring nothing more than this moment's attention. His mind, so recently filled with the hermit's words, empties naturally into the simplicity of the task, and he finds himself entering that state of moving meditation where thought ceases and there is only doing, only being, only the eternal present unfolding breath by breath. The work continues in its gentle rhythm, pull, release, and Brother Thomas is hardly aware of his own movements, so natural have they become, so integrated into the flow of his being. The sun shifts lower, the light growing richer, thicker, more golden, painting everything with warmth. Shadows pool beneath the plants like dark water, cool and mysterious, while the tops of the herbs glow as if lit from within. He moves to pruning now, using small shears to trim back the lavender, encouraging new growth, shaping the plants with the knowledge gained from years of patient observation. Snip, snip, snip. The soft sound rhythmic and hypnotic, the fragrance of lavender rising in clouds around him, so intense it is almost intoxicating, almost overwhelming, a purple sweetness that fills the air and seems to slow time itself. A bee drifts past, heavy with pollen, moving from flower to flower with ancient purpose, and Brother Thomas pauses to watch it, honoring this small companion in the work of tending the earth. The world outside the monastery walls, with all its noise and urgency, its conflicts and complexities, feels impossibly distant, as unreal as a half-remembered dream. This is the reality, this earth, these plants, this light, this moment. Nothing else exists, and nothing else needs to exist. He prunes and tends and breathes, his movements growing slower as the afternoon deepens, until finally he sets down the shears and simply kneels there, hands resting on his thighs, face turned toward the lowering sun. The light bathes him in gold, warming his closed eyelids, and he could be a statue, so still has he become, or a plant himself, rooted in this earth, drinking this light, part of the garden rather than separate from it. The shadows lengthen around him, reaching across the paths, climbing the monastery walls, preparing the world for evening's gentle arrival. Birds call softly from the trees beyond the walls, their songs already taking on the quality of Vespers, of day's ending, of gratitude for light and life. And Brother Thomas kneels in perfect stillness, held in the timeless embrace of earth and sky, prayer and breath, work and rest, all distinctions falling away until there is only peace, only presence, only this eternal moment that has no beginning and no end. This sacred, ordinary afternoon in the monastery garden, where all is well, all is as it should be, and the gentle rhythm of monastic life carries him forward toward evening's blessing. As the afternoon light begins its slow transformation into evening, Brother Thomas feels the gentle pull toward completion, toward the closing of the day's sacred circle. The garden around him seems to hold its breath in anticipation of twilight, the plants settling into their evening stillness, the shadows growing longer and softer across the monastery grounds. He sets down his tools with careful reverence, placing them in their proper home in the small wooden shed that leans against the garden wall. Each implement returned to its place, just as each hour of the day returns to its place in the eternal rhythm of monastic life. His hands are pleasantly tired, bearing the honest marks of earthly labor, sanctified by intention and prayer. As he walks slowly back toward the main monastery buildings, the air has taken on that particular quality that belongs only to the threshold between day and night, neither bright nor dark, but something in between, something suspended and timeless. The stone walls of the monastery seem to glow with a gentle warmth, as if they have gathered all the sunlight of the day and are now releasing it back into the cooling air, a slow exhalation of stored radiance. Brother Thomas pauses at the entrance to the cloister, his hand resting briefly on the ancient wood of the door, smooth from centuries of just such touches, connecting him across time to all those who have walked this path before, all those who have moved through these same hours toward evening prayer. The bell will ring soon for Vespers, calling the community together once more, gathering the scattered threads of individual contemplation into the woven cloth of communal worship. But for this moment, there is only the quiet anticipation, the peaceful waiting, the gentle transition from solitary labor to shared devotion. He can hear, somewhere in the distance, the soft footsteps of other brothers also making their way toward the chapel, each one emerging from his particular corner of the monastery's life, from the kitchen, from the library, from the fields beyond the walls, all drawn by the same invisible thread toward the same sacred center. The sky above the cloister courtyard is beginning to deepen into that blue that has no name, that blue that is both days ending and nights beginning, holding within it all the mysteries of transformation and change made gentle and gradual and kind. The chapel bell begins its evening song, each tone rolling out across the monastery grounds like ripples on a still pond, spreading circles of sound that call the monks home to prayer. Brother Thomas joins the quiet procession, moving through the cloister toward the chapel entrance, each brother walking in meditative silence, hands folded within wide sleeves, footsteps soft and measured on the worn stone. There is something deeply comforting in this gathering, this coming together at day's end, like birds returning to their roost or sheep folding into the safety of the fold. As he enters the chapel, the coolness of the sacred space embraces him, and the air itself feels different here, thicker somehow with centuries of prayer, saturated with the breath and devotion of countless souls who have stood in this very spot and lifted their hearts toward the divine. The light inside is dim and golden, candles flickering in their iron holders, casting dancing shadows on the stone walls, and making the simple wooden crucifix above the altar seem almost alive with gentle movement. Brother Thomas moves to his accustomed place in the choir stalls, the smooth wood familiar beneath his hands as he steadies himself, feeling the slight depression in the seat worn by years of his own sitting and by the many who came before. The chapel fills with the silent presence of the community, each monk finding his place, the brotherhood complete and gathered like petals folding into a closing flower. When all are assembled, when the last soft footstep has faded and the last rustle of wool robes has settled, there is a moment of pure collective stillness, a shared breath before the prayer begins. And then, as if rising from the earth itself, the chant begins to sound, voices blending in ancient harmonies that seem to have no individual source, but emerge from the community as one living, breathing prayer. The Latin words flow like water, like wind, like something more fundamental than language, carrying meaning that transcends understanding and speaks directly to the soul. Brother Thomas adds his own voice to the stream of sound, feeling it vibrate in his chest, feeling it connect him to his brothers on either side, weaving him into the fabric of something larger than himself, something timeless and beautiful and true. The Vespers Psalms unfold in their appointed order, verses of praise and thanksgiving, of acknowledgement of the day's gifts and the evening's peace, each word smoothed by repetition into a perfect stone of prayer, polished by the devotion of ages. The harmonies rise and fall, sometimes strong and full, sometimes fading to a whisper, following the natural breath of worship that needs no direction, that flows from the heart of shared faith and common life. As the final notes of Vespers fade into the chapel's waiting silence, Brother Thomas feels the prayer settling into his bones like warmth, like nourishment, like something essential that he didn't know he needed until it was given. The monks process out in the same quiet order in which they entered, moving now through twilight that has deepened almost into darkness. The monastery transformed by the absence of direct light into a place of shadows and suggestions, of forms half seen and mystery welcomed. The evening meal waits in the refectory, a simple supper of bread and cheese, a warm soup made from vegetables grown in the very garden. Brother Thomas tended this afternoon, completing another circle, another connection in the web of monastic self-sufficiency and care. The meal is taken in silence, as is the community's practice, but it is not an empty silence or a lonely one. It is a silence filled with presence, with awareness of one another, with gratitude for food and fellowship. Brother Thomas chews slowly, attentively, tasting the earthy sweetness of the carrot in his soup, the tang of the cheese, the honest grain of the bread. There is no hurry here, no rushing toward the next thing, only this present moment of nourishment and rest. When the simple meal is finished, the community gathers once more in the chapel for Compline, the final prayer of the day, the office that stands as guardian of the threshold between waking and sleep. The chapel is darker now, lit only by a few candles, and the monks' faces are softened into anonymity by shadow, each one becoming more archetype than individual, more symbol of humanity at prayer than particular person. The Compline prayers are brief and tender, filled with the language of nightfall and rest, of entrusting the soul to divine care through the vulnerable hours of darkness. There is a prayer for protection, a prayer for forgiveness, a prayer that acknowledges the day's end with both gratitude and release, letting go of all that was accomplished and all that was left undone, offering it all into the hands of something greater. Brother Thomas feels the prayers washing over him like cool water, like gentle hands smoothing away the small tensions and concerns of the day, preparing him for the great rest that approaches. The final hymn is sung slowly, almost as a lullaby, a blessing spoken in melody, and then comes the most sacred moment of all, the abbot's blessing of the community, his hand raised in benediction, his voice soft but clear in the candlelit dimness, speaking words of peace and protection over the gathered monks, like a father blessing his children before sleep. And with that blessing still resonating in the air, the great silence begins, that profound quietude that will blanket the monastery from this moment until the morning bell calls them again to prayer. No words will be spoken, no unnecessary sounds made, only the deep rest of a community held in the arms of sacred stillness. Brother Thomas walks through the darkened monastery toward his cell, his footsteps barely audible on the stone floor, each movement deliberate and soft in respect for the great silence that now holds the entire community in its gentle embrace. The corridors are dark, except for an occasional lamp burning low at a corner or junction, casting just enough light to guide the way, creating pools of amber warmth in an ocean of shadow. There is something profoundly comforting about this darkness, this intentional withdrawal from the brightness and activity of day into the rest and restoration of night. It is not frightening or forbidding, but welcoming, like closing one's eyes, like pulling a blanket over tired shoulders, like returning to some original safety that exists before and beyond all the complexities of waking life. Other monks pass like silent shadows, each one moving toward his own cell, each one held in the same cocoon of quietude, connected by their shared silence more deeply than words could ever connect them. Brother Thomas reaches his cell and enters the small, sparse room that has been his home within the community for so many years. It contains almost nothing: a narrow bed with a simple wool blanket, a small wooden stool, a shelf with a few books of prayer, a crucifix on the wall. But in its simplicity, it contains everything necessary, everything essential, and the very bareness of it is restful to the eye and soul. He sits on the edge of his bed and slowly removes his sandals, feeling the coolness of the stone floor beneath his feet one last time before sleep, grounding himself in the physical reality of this moment, this place, this life he has chosen and that has chosen him. The small window in his cell shows only darkness now, perhaps the faintest glimmer of starlight, and he gazes toward it for a moment, letting his eyes rest on that distant light, feeling himself connected to the vast cosmos beyond these monastery walls, while simultaneously held safe within them. He thinks back over the day that is ending, the morning prayers in darkness, the work in the garden, the meals, the reading, the evening worship, and it all seems of a piece, all woven together into a single tapestry of hours lived with intention and attention, each moment honored, each task embraced as prayer. There were no dramatic events, no great accomplishments, nothing that the world outside would consider noteworthy or significant, and yet the day was full, complete, sufficient unto itself. Brother Thomas lies back on his bed, his head resting on the thin pillow, his body grateful for the horizontal rest after the day's gentle labors. He pulls the wool blanket over himself, feeling its familiar weight and texture, and folds his hands over his chest in an unconscious echo of the prayer posture his body knows so well. In the encompassing silence of his cell, Brother Thomas lies quiet and still, his breathing beginning to slow and deepen as his body surrenders to rest and his mind releases its gentle hold on the day. The monastery around him is settling into its own sleep, the stones themselves seeming to exhale and relax after holding their form through another day, another cycle of prayers and work and community life. Somewhere in the building, a slight creak of old wood adjusting to the night's cooler temperature, the distant, barely perceptible whisper of wind moving around the monastery's corners. These are the only sounds in the profound quietude of the great silence. Brother Thomas lets his awareness expand to hold the whole monastery in his mind's eye. All his brothers also lying in their cells, the chapel empty and dark and somehow still holding the resonance of the day's prayers. The garden peaceful under the stars, the library's books resting in their shelves, the entire community breathing together in sleep as they breathe together in prayer, still connected, still one body even in the separateness of individual rest. There is a peace in this knowing, a deep comfort in being part of something larger than oneself, held in a web of relationship and shared purpose that continues even through sleep, even through silence. His breathing continues to slow, each breath becoming softer, easier, more natural, requiring no thought or effort, simply flowing in and flowing out like the tides, like the rhythm of day into night and night into day, the rhythm that has sustained the monastery for centuries and will continue long after this particular day, this particular monk, this particular moment has faded into the long memory of the community. Brother Thomas feels himself beginning to drift, that peculiar sensation of boundaries softening, of not knowing quite where his body ends and the surrounding darkness begins, of consciousness becoming less focused and more diffuse, spreading out like water, like light, like something returning to its source. The day releases him from its story, and he releases the day, letting it go with gratitude and trust, knowing that tomorrow will bring its own rhythm, its own prayers, its own simple tasks and quiet joys. But that none of that matters now. Now there is only this gentle descent into rest, into sleep, into the deep well of renewal that waits for every weary soul. The last thing he is aware of is the profound silence, not as an absence, but as a presence, as something almost tangible and certainly holy, the silence that holds all sound within it, the silence from which all prayer emerges and to which all prayer returns, the silence that is the voice of the divine speaking in the language before language, in the communion that needs no words. And wrapped in that sacred silence, held in the arms of the monastery's ancient peace, supported by the prayers of his brothers and the rhythm of a life devoted to presence and attention and love, Brother Thomas drifts into deep, restful sleep, and we drift with him into the profound peace of the great silence, where all is well, all is held, all is blessed, and the gentle rhythm of monastic life carries us forward through the night, toward morning, toward light, toward another day of sacred ordinary hours. But for now, only rest, only peace, only sleep, deep and healing and complete, in the timeless tranquility of the monastery, where the rhythm of prayer becomes the rhythm of breath, and the rhythm of breath becomes the rhythm of sleep, and sleep becomes prayer itself, endless, peaceful. Home. Thank you for listening tonight. If this story helped you drift off, consider leaving a like and subscribing for more calming stories. Sweet dreams, and I'll see you next time.